of Dania Beach. This is our Community Redevelopment Agency Budget Workshop, Tuesday, May 28th, 2024, 5:30 on the dot. And can we please have a roll call?
Chair Ryan.
Here.
Vice Chair Llewellyn.
Here.
Board Member Davis.
Here.
Board Member James.
Here.
Board Member Salvino.
Here.
Executive Director Chen.
Here.
City Attorney Bootsas.
Here.
Chair, you have a quorum.
All right. Thank you very much, Clerk. Let's jump right into the budget presentation and discussion. Go ahead,
Thank
Chair.
you, Chair Ryan.
Director.
If I may, I'm going to step to the podium to do the presentation.
Please.
Okay. So thank you once again, and I'm looking forward to our discussion tonight about the 2025 CRA budget. Just to give you some background on what was considered as I put together the draft that was presented to you, heavily played in this was this 2023 CRA plan update. It had some pretty well-defined goals and objectives, including priorities of those projects. That was heavily taken. I've tried to listen to you as we go along through the year, and as I've identified your evolving interest, I've tried to reflect that. I also have planned this to maintain the momentum of successful programs and activities that we're doing, as well as identifying opportunities to reduce costs for programs that aren't as effective, or perhaps where there's opportunities to save some money. Here we go. These next few slides are direct copies of the CRA plan update to show the table of priorities and goals that were in that plan. They broke down their priorities into 3 time frames. Short term was defined as 1 to 2 years, midterm was 2 to 4 years, and long term was in excess of 4 years. So this first slide here shows all of the short-term priorities. In other words, priorities, programs that should be started within the first 1 to 2 years of the completion of the CRA plan. I would like to point out to you that every short-term goal has been started. Also like to point out to you that among the things in here is talking about the facade grant. In fiscal year 2024, we've approved 4 facade grants, 3 of which were fronting on Federal Highway. And by the way, I think I've got another grant coming to you at the June meeting. This next page is midterm goals. That helps, doesn't it? Thank you. Of the midterm goals, we've already started 2 of the 3 midterm goals. And then the long-term goals, there are some things we need to talk about because at the time of the CRA plan, it was not anticipated that the Dania After Dark and Arts and Seafood, the production of those events would be moved to the city. So those were part of our goals. That is no longer under the purview of the CRA. However, it does talk about continuing on with business support programs and training. So we will continue doing that, including finally some expansion of programming and events at the patch. And of course, the facade grant does continue. Some highlights of this budget, just to summarize, is that the current draft reflects a reduction of $85,000 from last year's budget. Now, the format of the budget that I gave you shows 2024 budget line items side by side with fiscal year 2025. So you can see every program, what the difference was, what I anticipated the cost and funding and so forth for each program, where funding was reduced, where it's expanded, and so forth. It also includes the increase of membership fees and subscription services. As an example, the Greater Fort Lauderdale Alliance membership fee has gone up since 2024. It identifies opportunities to modify programs and reduce costs, thus improving the return on investment that we make with CRA funds. And there are some accounts that I've left the line items so that you have a reference point, but there's already basically one-time task that have already started, and I have reduced the funding. I'm not carrying that funding forward because they don't need to be repeated if they're already done. Okay. I will also tell you that toward the end of my presentation, I have 2 ideas to discuss with you that will have further impacts in the budget. It's not currently reflected in the draft that you have before you. Just to bring you some update on the initiatives that have been started, the CRA plan goal, federal highway public work and realm enhancements. This was wayfinding signage and branding signage. That program was initiated. We have a contract with Calvin Giordano. They are continuing to develop a wayfinding signage and branding for the Arts and Entertainment District. The city manager in the staff workshop asked them to look at expanding that signage program to areas that are beyond the CRA boundary. And I think that was kind of the concept when we first brought it to you, because you wanted to make sure that it was coordinated with other city signage programs. Once that design is done, the improvements and the construction of those things will actually be done on city-owned right-of-way. It would be appropriate for the implementation side of that program to be done under the city because of its engineering perspectives. For the 2025 budget, there's $0 in for that because it's already been expensed against existing funding. The Northwest First Street enhancements, basically this has been described as the downtown vision plan along West First Avenue. Again, that was done by a contractor with Calvin Giordano. We've had several workshops, and in fact, most recently we had a workshop with police and fire departments so they could look at the concepts to identify if they have any issues with them. We're waiting some of their comments back from that presentation. I will also remind you that when we initiated that project, I advised that because of its potential impact on the city, that we were going to do a video documentary of the process. Shortly before this meeting, I sent you a link to the draft video that has been produced for that. Take a look at it. It is a draft. We can have some comments, suggestions. We can make edits to that. Once we have the final piece of that, it will be posted on YouTube, and there'll be a link to that video on the CRA website. I've been talking about the CRA's website for a couple of years now. It's a nice looking website, but it's got no focused content. It doesn't do anything to kind of, I guess, engage people, and it doesn't do anything to initiate actions and responses from people who might view it. So we have issued a $10,000 purchase order to the original company who developed the website to simply do an update on this. And we've already started that process. They're already mapping out how to restructure our current website to make it more informative and more user-friendly. Okay. In terms of the budget, we carried a $30,000 budget for this initiative. It's going to be the draft budget you have before you reflects that the $10,000 will be expensed in this year. So I'm carrying forward $20,000 of that 30. $10,000 remains with the CRA, but I've also shifted $10,000 of that website budget to the patch because we also need to update the patch website. So I've reduced the overall cost because we will have expensed $10,000 of that budget already. And of course, the objective of that goal is to improve our effectiveness in community outreach. This is a significant change in our 2025 budget. We will continue our workforce training programs. We'll continue our relationships with FIU and IP to Market Incubator, but I have assumed that we would not renew the lease at 25 Federal Highway. So that would reduce that line item budget by $60,000 plus an additional $15,000 that was set aside for operating costs associated with that. Now, I want to make it clear to you that we will continue to provide workforce and business support training programs. We will continue to work with FIU and IP to Market Incubator, but as those programs go on, I'm just going to simply look for alternative locations for them rather than pay the $60,000 lease that we had proposed. I don't want you to feel that that money was wasted because there was something that very good came out of that. And that is, in fact, this was data that was evident and published in our 2023 CRA plan update. In 2022, office space in the CRA had a 1.9% vacancy rate. All right, I can tell you that is excessively low vacancy rate. At least the CRA satellite office and the conversations with the landlord of that space generated 7,000 square feet more office space that's available for companies to come into Dania Beach and the CRA. So it's not totally wasted money. It has driven something that's got worth and value to us through the future. I've summarized where monies are moving through the patch. As you're aware, we're already starting to do to implement the CRA plan update for the patch, the master plan. Part of that was to do the 46 raised bed. Again, that was specific to mitigate the flooding that has been so prolific on that site. As we do that, it will actually expand the farming area that we use in that site to date. And I have anticipated that it will take more labor and more cost to just maintain the farm. I've added some money for Fruitful Fields contract renewal next year. It doesn't necessarily mean it will be by this much. We'll try to negotiate that to be a minimal increase. But it is expected that they'll need more labor than they originally anticipated to do the farming of that, what is going to be a total of 64 raised beds and expanded nurseries. For the patch budget, I've also reduced the water budget by assuming that we will convert to well water. I've reduced $3,600 from the 2024 budget for that. I have expected more activities to occur at the patch. I've added an additional $5,000 to help pay for some of the additional expenses that will be neighborhood and promotional activities at the patch, including ideas of some kids-oriented programs like bounce houses and water slides or whatever, and we're already exploring how that gets brought into the patch. Professional services budget, this is part of the implementation of the CRA plan. It did have some directives for creating ADA accessible features. So we do need to have a design to do a paved ADA space along with a paved walk to the pavilion floor that would accommodate improved ADA access. We'll also be working to improve the ADA access of the porta potties that are used there. And there's a number of issues about volunteers and basically practices of visitors to the CRA that we'll have to look at. For instance, we will have to put padlocks, not pad, but pad-coated locks on all the doors because all our shed doors, the porta potties, all that need to remain locked through so that they're not opportunities for, let's say, inappropriate behaviors with children. So that I've put aside some money to do the conversions and the designs for those. Just to give you some fun facts about what you're paying for here. With the new design, we've calculated that the patch will offset 70 metric tons of CO2 each year. That is an amount that's equal to the CO2 emissions to produce at charging your iPhone 8.5 million times. We are also anticipating that the yields will go up to 25,000 bundles of vegetables every year. And it was estimated that is sufficient to feed approximately 8,000 households. So that's where the future of this is going with the increased raised beds and so forth. The Rebuilding Together program at Home Dania Beach Home Beautification remains the same. We expect to continue with another 40 houses with Rebuilding Together next year. The commercial facade program is planned to continue next year. I have increased the funding by $20,000. Currently, I think our budget was $50,000, but like I said, this year we've had 4 facade grant applications that's been approved. We will need more funding as that program is taken advantage of next year. So I mentioned Rebuilding Together. This is one of the programs that's not reflected in your current budget draft. Basically, I've met with Rebuilding Together. They've been such a wonderful and successful partner with us in so many ways, and frankly, not just with the CRA, but with the city as well and other initiatives. Rebuilding Together has another program that they talk about as being a signature program of theirs that they call Safe and Healthy Homes. Basically, it is targeted at housing that has senior owners, veterans, and those with disabilities. It's for homes that pose special risk to the health and well-being of their homeowners. This would allow low-income and elderly homes to maintain their home ownership. In other words, give them a better opportunity to age in place. And I've looked up, Rebuilding Together has done follow-up surveys with some of the people that they've served. So let me just give you a few examples of what they've identified. 90% of the homeowners they've served reported an increased feeling of pride in their home. 90%. 33% of those homeowners said that their health improved because of the improvements that were done to their home. Maintenance cost, ongoing maintenance cost of those homes has been reduced by 27%. 86% of the neighbors that we have served talk about these programs have improved their access and ability to get in and out of their homes. 67% of the homes we served has reported feeling stress relief because of the improvements that have been done to their house. And almost 90% of the homes we've done report that they feel they have a place where they can age in their existing residence. So there's very tangible benefits that go way beyond just the curb appeal of improving the look of those houses. You're actually significantly reducing home ownership costs and giving people an opportunity to have longer time enjoyment of the properties in which they live today. So I would like your direction as to whether you're interested in increasing basically an add-on budget with Rebuilding Together for $50,000. They look at that as basically labor cost to do additional work. And this slide shows you a list of the different types of work that goes way beyond just painting and landscaping their homes. Things like mold, pest control, repairing hazardous electrical things, ADA access and modifications, energy and water improvements, repairing windows and doors, water efficient toilets, and fixing plumbing leaks. And some of this money would go to professional services because it requires engineers in some of these cases to design and get permits for some of these improvements, and they have to have code inspections. So basically, they've estimated that if we can provide the funding of $50,000, that they believe they can get the materials and so forth to do these repairs from donations from people like Home Depot and other volunteers that work with them. Their problem is they just don't have the manpower to do this without paying them. So I need your direction if you have an interest in adding $50,000 for a supplementary program with Rebuilding Together. We can discuss it now, or I can tell you my next.
You want? Okay, well, yeah, hold off and we'll discuss it at the end of the presentation.
Okay. I have one more idea that I'd like to discuss with you. In this slide, I have summarized the staffing positions that are currently in the 2024 CRA budget. They include myself as a full-time executive director, a full-time deputy director's position, business attraction investment manager, full-time. By the way, I did think it was filled, but it fell through. We do not have that position filled today. It includes an executive assistant, which is a filled position and it's full-time. And currently it's the lead farm and market coordinator, which is a part-time position. And you've met her, I've introduced her to you a few times, Bianca Maria. My recommended change is to delete the deputy director's position. That would save a significant amount of money. And in place of that, I am proposing that we should convert the lead farm and market coordinator's position to full-time. That strategy will reduce the fiscal year 2025 budget by in excess of $100,000. And to give you some ideas about that, and the reason why I think it's needed, is that you're all aware that the activities at the patch have been curtailed since basically 2020. With COVID first shutting down everything to the public. There was some attempt to reopen in 2021, but there were constant COVID spikes in 2021 that even affected City Hall. So the patch never got reestablished. They had public openings, but they never really got established with restarting programming in 2021. And even through 2022, there were still limited accommodations. There were accommodations to limit face-to-face meetings and so forth because there was still a fair amount of concern about COVID and its ability to spread and spike. Under those conditions, where the patch has been operating pretty much as a limited public interaction entity, our lead farm and market coordinator has averaged 26 to 27 and a half hours per week in her time cards. That is against a maximum allowed of 28 hours a week. And the only way we were able to keep her hours below that 28-hour maximum is by forcing her to take time off so that we could adjust the time average over time to keep her under that 28-hour-a-week average. With the programs we're talking about now, we're talking about increasing Saturday hours, regular hours and programs, extending some hours into the afternoon, doing more events and so forth. Now, we're covered in terms of a lot of the labor for that because that's in our Fruitful Farms contract. But I think it's appropriate for our employee, our lead farmer market coordinator, to be in attendance to those as well. That's why I'm proposing that we take her position to full-time. And again, making that change from deleting a deputy director's position to converting the farm and market position from part-time to full-time will save in excess of $100,000. And with that, I can join you back for discussion unless you'd like me to stay here.
Yeah, come and join us. We're fine. Okay, any board discussion, comments? Can we start with the expansion of the budget for Rebuilding Together Broward for the $50,000 for the senior assistance program? Yeah, the Healthy Homes. Can we discuss that? All right. I guess I'll lead it off. I think it's a good initiative. I think Rebuilding Broward has really established a great position in this city, and they've done everything that we've asked them and more. And this program seems like it's right on par with everything else that we're doing, and I'm in support of it. I'll just put it that way for the $50,000. Commissioner Board Member Davis.
Yes, Mayor. Chair, I am in agreement with you as well. I had a clarification question because you said that it was 40 homes, and so is this 10 homes in addition to that? Does that make it 50 homes, or is this part of the 40 homes?
Actually, it is anticipated more extensive repair on the 40 homes. Okay. Now, it also allows them to take calls from homes that aren't necessarily ready to be repainted to where they can help those neighbors. So the 10 homes do not necessarily stack on top of the 40 homes. It may be in those 40 homes, or it may be part of an additional work. Okay. It's case by case what is needed for an individual homeowner that qualifies. And by the way, the program is targeted to elderly and low income and veterans.
Okay. Well, I still am in agreement with that, but I just wanted to get some clarification regarding, I do know that we've had representatives from Rebuilding Together to speak to Gracefully Aging. There was a big need there for them to come and do different things, and if they're able to expand their services and what they're able to do for our seniors, and they've proven themselves over a period of years of being an exceptional partner and really bringing top quality resources in addition to Home Depot together with us. So I'm in agreement with our chair on that. Thank you.
Thank you, Board Member Davis. Board Member James?
Yes, I'm trying to understand this. So currently we do 40 homes for $120,000?
That is correct. That's 40 homes of painting and landscaping.
Right, and I know that they do other things as well. I've
Yes.
seen them do ADA accessible things and other and provide ACs or whatever is needed to certain situations. So that's like $3,000 per home currently, if you break it down that way.
Okay.
And then so you're asking for an additional $50,000 for 10 homes within the 40 to have an additional $10,000? Because it's not really clear, because then I just heard you say something about it could be one of those 40 homes, and then it could, I know that some of the requirements required the homeowner to put some of their own skin in the game, meaning that you have to make some minor repairs or whatever before they could be qualified for the requirements. And so now how are we going to pick and choose which residents that we give additional funding to? That's my only concern, is that we've done things a certain way, and now you're going to choose 10 to give an additional either $10,000 or $7,000 to I don't understand, because I'm sure if every home needs something other than what they're having done right now.
Actually, the way that they described it to me, and by the way, I didn't build this into the draft budget that I submitted to you because I just got this proposal from Rebuilding Together last Friday. So this was published before they got this to me. Basically, they described it in many different ways. They get all kinds of applications for our Rebuilding Together program, the home beautification program. Some of them are not just looking for paint. They're saying, we have this problem, we have leaks in our plumbing, we have this and so forth. And that is one of the dimensions, so that the $50,000, they've estimated an average of $5,000 per home for these kind of additional repairs. It does not necessarily overlap the painting program that we have today, but it may be. And he described it like this. So when they do a paint and landscaping program at a property, the first thing they do, this is something that's not part of our volunteer groups when we go there, in advance, they go out and pressure clean the entire house.
Yes,
so that the paint sticks and that kind of stuff. When they do that, they often find that there's maybe a rotten spot in the eaves or something like that, that if they had money for the labor, they would replace that before it was painted. Now, that's not a $5,000 deal. That's just a couple of $100 of additional labor. So they've tried to give us an estimate of 10 homes for $50,000, but it doesn't mean that there would necessarily be specifically $5,000 for additional 10 houses. That's just their estimate of what additional problems that they typically find in houses.
So what's the difference in between when they find, because my uncle was a recipient of this, and again, when they went to do the washing and everything else that they needed to do, they made him pay to get some of it fixed, because they said we cannot paint over this, we cannot rebuild this. So are they no longer going to require, because that was I guess the amount that they mandated or required the homeowners to input some of their own funding into it when they can. But I understand that, but I'm just, the plan isn't clear.
The way I understand
saying one
it,
thing and
in fact, your example is probably a very good one. What I understand they're intending to do, that when they come up to something like that, instead of charging a homeowner that might be financially challenged to actually put that money in, we would provide the labor for it, and they'll go out and get materials from volunteers, like I said. So it would not be a charge to the homeowner. Instead, we're helping the homeowner further to identify those types of things that need to be fixed before you paint.
then they have to be a senior or a veteran to be able to
Senior,
get
veteran,
that part.
or low-income owner of the house, yes.
I was just going to recommend that they give us whatever they have on this program. We could report back with all the details to make sure that we're all on the same page.
Well, yeah, it's a bit confusing for what was read, and then it's like a Pandora's box when we're talking about it. So I'm really not clear on everything. So I want to support it. I've always been a supporter of rebuilding. I just don't. It's not clear enough on what we're spending the money on and how it's going to be not an issue. The contingency of the repairs. If we start doing repairs on someone's, plumbing and this, that, the third, I'm telling you what's going to happen. Something's going to happen, and something's not going to be done right, or with a contractor, they're going to come back to us. They're not going to go back to the contractor. They're going to come back to us, and they're going to expect us to maintain or fix that. I think that is too far into repairing people's homes. I think that we're doing a great job in spending taxpayers' money on giving back already, and I support that. But when we go down to talking about mold and remediation of mold, and we're talking about plumbing issues, I just think that can be, we're going down a dangerous slope. So I need to hear more before I support it. Thank you.
Well, and I will remind you that my slide 14 actually did provide the type of work that they would expect to do under this. It's, Ralph, could you put up my slide 14 in the presentation so everybody can see it? There, back up. There you go. That is examples of the type of work that Rebuilding Together says they would expect to be doing, that they're doing today under their Safe and Healthy Homes program. They are doing this already, they're just not doing it here because they don't have the extra funding for us.
Okay, thank you. Vice Chair?
I actually was going to say something similar to what our city attorney said, that maybe we could get some further information and get a better sense of that. My other question is, does it have to be 50,000? Can we start out at a lower amount, see what happens with it, and then see if there is a definite need for it and it seems to be working, then maybe increase it over time?
The answer is yes, we can do that.
I mean, we don't have to start at 50,000.
No.
But I would definitely like to see more information from them. If maybe they could even do a presentation for us or something and kind of go through the whole, what they
Yeah,
do.
I can do that. I think
Something.
basically, again, kind of trying to thinking of drafting an agreement with them for this service is basically we provide a total budget with a maximum that could be allocated toward any given house. I mean, that's kind of the way I'm thinking we would structure it. But again, we don't have an agreement on this yet to
Yeah.
even critique.
They just came to you with this last week.
This came to me Friday.
Right, so
Yes.
I think we need to vet it a little more and explore it a little more and get a little more information
Okay.
before we can really make a decision on it.
Okay.
Thank you, Vice Chair. Board Member Salvino?
Thank you, Chair. Michael, on what you're talking about, I saw the slide 13 or 14, whatever it was on there. When you're talking about those improvements that were on there, I can tell you that you're going to have an issue with that straight across the board, because you go to the first house you go to and it has a complete mold problem or plumbing problem, you're going to go over $5,000, $10,000, $15,000. I can tell you that without a doubt. And what you're going to end up doing is you're going to end up giving the homeowner a remodel job that we should not be doing. Unfortunately for the person, they may not have the funding to do it themselves, but then we're taking away from the other homes that are there that are in need of what basic rebuilding was about. I'm in support of helping as many homes as we can. And I think that, and I have no problem with the extra money to go towards it, but I don't think that we should be rebuilding somebody's house to that point. I think I would stick with the painting and the landscaping and the cleaning up, and maybe a little bit of excessive things like helping them clean up in the house, or washing it down, or maybe insecting, clean insects out. But I can't see going in and rebuilding a bathroom. It's not $5,000. And you're gonna
And that wasn't described that way. They're talking about replacing maybe
well, I think you said in there, if
toilet.
you go back to that slide, I think it had a lot of extensive work in that slide.
Okay.
You're talking about addressing mold issues. You call somebody to do mold, they're gonna charge you right off the bat probably $500 to do a mold test. If there's mold, that means they gotta tear the drywall down. If they tear the drywall down, they gotta clean it, and right there you have $2,000-3,000 on just the mold. It has nothing to do with rebuilding the bathroom that caused the problem or the plumbing behind it. I have a problem with putting all the money into, and a lot of the money into one house. Now, if we could come up with, as we were talking about, a plan, if the homeowner has $20,000 or $15,000 worth of damage, even if they can't afford it, then I don't know how to get around it. But if they could afford it, maybe we put 20% towards it or something, towards helping them, because we should not have to rebuild somebody's homes. There's a lot of families that need help. So I'm in favor of supporting the rebuilding the homes. I'm willing to even to give the $50,000 if it's going to help 50 homes. But I'm not in support of doing it for 10 homes.
Okay.
Because even though one home may take $1,000, the next home may take $7,000. I think it's unbalanced. I don't think it's fair across the board for us to do that.
I think that's a good observation. It's a program that does require a lot of control built into an agreement to how to do this. I get that.
But I'm willing to support whatever it takes to do the rebuilding program, other than allocate money for major problems.
Okay.
So maybe, I guess if you come back with telling them or whatever we're willing to do so to a certain point, maybe we can revisit this again and then offer what we can in funding. Chair?
Yeah, I think we definitely want to see an agreement and with a little more literature on it, so we can definitely get an understanding of it. But I do like the program, and I like the initiative of the Healthy Homes program, because when you look at it, this isn't just helping anybody who has a home, in the CRA district. It's helping the elderly, it's helping the veterans, and these are people that are really kind of hopeless when it comes to their house having mold in it or having a leak in the roof. If we could fix that for a certain dollar amount without getting too out of control, I think it's definitely a positive impact. You could slap a coat of paint on the outside of a house, but are you really making somebody's life more healthy? Like it might, like Mr. Chen said, yeah, it does improve their health by improving the outside of their house. But when somebody has a serious issue, like it might be as simple as just a leaky, like a leaky valve on the toilet, and then that caused a little mold in that area, and we fix it. That's doable. And I understand what you mean. You don't want to, if somebody has cast iron pipings, you dig into their floor and to rip out all the cast iron pipings. I don't think that's what this is meant for. This is meant for immediate health hazards that are present in the home that you could probably see right when you walk in the door. And for the type of individual that we're targeting with this program, I'm definitely in full support of it. And I do appreciate the board with your reservations about, just jumping into something. We want to see a contract, we want to see it written up. But, thank you to Rebuilding for reaching out to us. And thanks for bringing it to us also in such a short notice. But I think it's something that we can move forward with once we get everything ironed out that we're talking about right now.
I'll try to get more definition on that. I'll try to get a kind of a draft agreement so you can see what the parameters of how this would operate with us, and it may give you a little bit more tangibility to discuss.
Yes, sir.
Comment,
Of
please.
course.
I just think having them here, I think we're doing a lot of projecting onto what they can do and what they can't do. And I don't even think an agreement, just looking at it on the surface of it, would be sufficient. But if you have the people, them here themselves, and you can ask them how much, they would be willing to do and what their whole vision is, looking at that in conjunction with an agreement. So they're very knowledgeable. They have different ways for having different, being able to explain all of the questions and all of the things that were raised up here. So I would like to see them personally come back with the agreement and explain all the,
I'll see that Robin joins us for that
Thank you.
discussion.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, so far they've done a wonderful job, and I'd actually like to see that program expanded, at year by year. We've expanded it, what, $20,000 this year on your budget?
We increased it in fiscal year '24 because the cost of doing the painting and so forth increased quite a bit.
Okay.
So we increased that, I think, from 90,000 to 120 in '24.
Okay. Yeah, I'd almost like to revisit and see if we could put a little bit more money into that and increase the amount of homes that we improve. Because it's, like I said, it's a great program, and it's something that's noticeable. Yeah. It's something that the community sees, and especially, with the facade grants as well, the community sees that as well. So, all right, yeah, good job. Thank you, Director. Thank you, Board. Any other discussion?
The staffing that I proposed.
All right, Vice Chair?
Yeah, I have a question. If you take the part-time position and put it to full-time, then doesn't that change benefits and other
It
things
does.
like that as well? So you'd have an increase with that as well?
You do, but considering all the impacts, the budget load, the benefits loads and everything else, you'll still save more than $100,000 with this conversion.
Do we have numbers that we can actually see what the difference is?
Again, this was something I started conversation with Frank, but it hasn't been defined yet because we have to need to get your direction on your comfort level with this.
I'd like to see the numbers on it before I
do
can
that.
give you a comfort level.
Okay, we can do that.
Board Member James?
Yes. It makes it very difficult to make decisions without all of the information just in the future. Like, I want to see numbers as well. I'm not understanding why we're continuing to reduce the positions in the CRA and the budget. Pretty soon, it's going to be 2 people in the CRA. That's kind of how I see it. And so I would rather just fill that part-time position, because I do think it is important to move it to being full-time, regardless of what we do with the other positions. I do think that, with the expectations of this board, you're going to need more manpower. And so I know that we keep striking positions out of the budget, moving two part-time to one full-time, but we still have a two-man CRA right now as far as like members here. And so, of course, the budget is reduced because the programming has to be reduced. We don't have enough manpower to be able to do, to run a high-powered CRA or a CRA of the many ideas that I've seen come from this board. And so I'm in favor of just having that one position full-time instead of part-time, but I'm not in favor of reducing the other positions. Or eliminating, sorry.
Okay. So you're not in favor of cutting deputy director?
No,
Okay.
but I am in favor of changing it to full-time.
Change from the patch?
Yes,
Okay,
I
you
do
want a
think we
full-time.
need
Okay.
full-time person there at the patch if we're going to expand our programming.
Thank you.
Yeah, do we have consensus on a full-time position at the patch, or do you guys want to see? Yeah? Board Member Salvino.
On the patch, the full-time position consists of
One
hours, days, I mean,
Basically, the problem we have right now as a part-time person is that we cannot allow her to work more than 28 hours a week because it drives everything. We just can't do it. So regardless of what she does, she has to take time off to keep her hours below 28 hours a
right,
week.
I'm not worried about the part-time, I'm talking about
Yeah.
the full-time hours though. What is like, I mean, is it, they open to close, or, I mean, like, what is it?
So full-time position, she would be expected to maintain a 40-hour week, which basically it would increase her actual hours on site by, just off the top of my head, it's probably about 40%. It adds her about 40% of additional hours to her time on site.
Okay, and those, again, from doing what hours is that?
Well, part of this is because we're looking to elongate the hours. Right now, the patch has been operating pretty much from about 8 in the morning to 1 o'clock in the afternoon.
Okay,
But with all the activities that we have going on now, with the additional planning and the construction that's going on, with the expanded weekend hours and neighborhood events that we have proposed, that's going to take her way past their 28 hours that she's allowed to be there.
okay, I understand how hours work, and when I'm still
Oh, I'm
not
sorry.
answering my question though.
I'm sorry.
So, unless I'm not understanding what you're saying, what I'm asking you is that one person full-time
Yes.
is a 40-hour week job, and I understand that, which is normal, okay? The thing is that, does she come in at 9 o'clock, Monday through Friday, 9 to 5, or are you gonna have certain hours set aside for them, and then what's gonna happen when we have the events? Are the hours adjustable? Are they gonna be, because when you start setting up a full-time hourly post on the patch, that means someone's gonna need to be there when it's open, and you can't change it one day, and then next day you can't, but people get accustomed to open hours, and then you have an event come up, and then that event's gonna take more hours. Do they go into overtime at that point? Are they allowed overtime at that time?
They are. That's one of the differences between part-time and full-time is that they are allowed to go into overtime hours
Okay.
if needed. So
Okay.
that's one of the
So my
things.
point is that you're gonna have established 40 hours plus anything else.
That's correct.
Okay, I think that gets closer to what I'm trying to get to. So in other words, if we do have an event, that she could actually put in 15 extra hours of that week.
She can. And let me give you an example. So again, for the past couple of years, the patch has not been involved in many activities, but I've tried to bring them into some of the things that's being done with the city. So I brought them in for the Arts and Seafood Fest. I brought them in to be part of the wellness program that the HR has set up for staffing. All right, when I do that, I've had to drop her off hours and other days because that's overtime for her now, and we can't pay her overtime as a part-time
Part-time
person. So
Okay.
it is something that we have used, that we've needed, that we've had to basically tell her not to show up for a couple of days to offset the balance of her hours for the week.
Okay, all right, I'm all right, and, and I probably might be speaking out of turn on this a little bit, but again, I'm thinking that, you know, we have a part-time person and then you want to move it to full-time, it almost seems like we would be better off, whether it's full-time or not, or getting 3 part-timers and having all those people come in there, then you're able to account for the events, you account the spread the day out from 8 to 5, you know, 6 days a week, or 9 to 5, 6 days a week, and a half a day Sunday or something. You know, then you have all these people. It's there. It's constant, and your payroll stays pretty much the same, except for a little bit of an increase with the 3rd part timer. Or I don't care how you do it, but I just think that if we're going to be there, I think you're going to be short staffed with just one person working full time. Because I'd rather see another part timer than to go into overtime, because I know you're going to have events and this and that. And I think when you start paying that time and a half for overtime, you could get a part timer in there as well. I'm just shooting out things to everybody that are.
Making sense?
Yeah.
Hey, but Director Chen, if I may, Fruitful Fields is out there too, though. That we have
Fruitful
a contract
Fields is
with them.
there, and
Yeah.
that was part of the justification to go on Fruitful Fields, because as only offering part-time positions, we've had a lot of trouble
Okay.
finding positions
I didn't know they were
to
gonna talk
hire
about that.
for the patch.
Okay, well, I didn't know if Fruitful Fields was helping out in that respect. I
Yes,
understand.
they
I
are.
thought they were just doing the.
Yeah, we contracted
No.
with them for
Their contract,
60,000,
they're it's about 72,000, I think.
72,000. Okay.
But their
okay.
contract requires them to put the time in and labor in for not just the farming operation, but also to conduct the events as well. So
Okay, well,
that
that's a
is
different
also
story.
the backstop.
I'll back off.
I just want one of our own employees on site when we're
Okay.
doing these events.
All right, fair enough. Now I understand more.
Okay, sorry, I was unclear before.
Vice Chair?
I was only gonna make a suggestion, but since you've explained it, I don't think I need to at this point, but I was gonna make the suggestion that you come back to us with numbers on both scenarios. If you had a full-timer who might potentially need some overtime here and there, or 2 or 3 part-time people, as opposed, you know what I mean? Just to get the different ideas,
I can work with Frank and bring those
just to get some
numbers.
idea of what it would look like.
Okay.
But I will say that I do agree with cutting the deputy, because your deputy was doing a lot of things that we're not doing anymore in CRA, correct?
Well, I think the idea of a deputy director may be more, I'm just calling it horsepower, than we need in a position. Frankly, that is a position that would probably, if we chose to fill it, to maintain it, that is a position that would probably be defined as another manager as opposed to deputy director. And we save a fair amount of money by doing so. And you would have the manpower to conduct other programming and so forth to go.
I just don't know that we need it right now. It might be something that we need down the road, but right now I don't know that it's a position that you need.
It's kind of why I proposed it, but I appreciate your concern, because I agree. I'm trying to find ways for the CRA to be more effective, to do more of the programs and serve more of the community needs that you're looking for. And if you totally wipe out the workforce of the CRA, that's not going to be feasible to do.
Right, but you're not. I mean, you have other positions there.
Yes.
Okay.
Board Member James?
Oh, I didn't know my light was on, but what's the decision what's the consensus? Because we've all kind of spoke around this topic.
Well, if we have consensus that we could approve a full-time position at the patch, then we can move forward with that.
Yeah, I'm okay with that.
I'm okay with it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
all right,
can
so we
I
have
say
consensus
something
with that.
one more time on that? I think that the vice chair brought up a good point, and I think board member James brought up a good point too. I think effectively, because we're doing better with the patch and doing better things, I think that in the CRA, I really think I'd like you to come back with, you had maybe not have the deputy director, and you can take the funds, and then you had another event coordinator or something. There was another position you have to in there as well.
Yeah.
Yeah,
The
business
other
attraction.
position,
But I'd like to
yeah.
see something like that, and I'd like to see maybe, 3, 4 other employees hired as part-timers or something like that, just to keep things going. Because I think that the more out there, more bodies out there, I'd like you to propose that, which you can hire somebody for and bring it back to us and see where we can grow at that point. Even if it's one at a time to go, but I think that's the step to take that money from the deputy director and put it into multiple employees. I think that'd be a good idea. But can you bring that back and let us know what it costs to do that?
I'll bring you some specific cost estimates of what this
Okay.
strategy would do.
Okay. All right, thank you. That's all I have to say.
Okay.
That's it for me.
All right, so you have your direction from the board. And any other comments? Anything?
Yes, you might as well leave mine on. I have questions about the budget.
No, go ahead, please.
So starting with, I see the plan update and they have like a soft schedule, but there's no detailing in like, I know it says priority 1 to 2 years, but what does that look like? What does the schedule look like? So it says the branding and wayfinding signage design was started and then ongoing. And I understand that Calvin Giordano is doing it and working with the city for placement, but what's gonna happen when they come back with a price? Is that coming out the CRA's budget or is it coming out the city's budget?
Okay, the way I think this will happen is that the contract with Calvin Giordano to initiate these programs came from the CRA.
Mm-hmm.
I think that the presentation of their findings and recommendations comes to the CRA for you to work on and so forth. However, the release, the next step of that process is to approve an engineering contract for construction drawings. And that construction contract is for work to be performed on city-owned property. And it requires basically the engineering specifications. I mean, there's so much about that that has to be done. I think the second phase of that work, which is the construction drawings, and then the third phase is the actual construction, that is something that makes sense for the city to engage as opposed to the CRA because we don't own the street.
So is the funding coming from the city's budget or the CRA's budget? That was my question.
The initial engagement with Calvin Giordano came from the CRA budget.
Okay.
That's
But
1.5 million?
Actually, it
You said-
was,
How much
I'm
you said,
trying to think.
Chair?
It says 1.5 million on the.
No,
No,
the
no,
first
no,
one.
no,
The first
no.
one, the 25,000. That's why you.
Yeah, the
You
scared
1.5
me.
million is the estimate for implementation.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so the rest of it is going to be on the city?
So right now, we have a contract just for the conceptual design, the visioning process. The second step is a construction drawing. The third step is the actual construction and construction management. Those second steps 2 and 3 are appropriate to be done by the city.
So the funding will come from the city?
The city would, yes, they would. That's correct.
Okay, because
I'm
that's
sorry, I
something
didn't
we-
realize I was being
The
unclear.
CRA
with
is
that.
just funding the vision.
We just funded the initial vision planning.
So the rest of the project, this shouldn't even be on, well, this is just a city project now, after this part, after the portion that you've done?
Yeah. In fact, I had hoped that they would be able to come back to you for a presentation of their concepts. I had looked for it in May or June. There are some more comments that are coming back for the vision plan that are coming from fire and police. I think that probably July is when you're going to get to see the final proposal from Calvin Giordano on the vision plan, the downtown vision plan. From there, you have to decide if you approve that vision or if you want to change and modify anything that they've suggested in there. Once it's approved as to the design, that's when you go to the second step of releasing an engineering contract to do construction drawings. But you only do construction drawing after you've approved what they're designing to construct.
Okay, I'll move past it. I'll move past it because it's not going to be in this budget. That's all I'm trying to
Okay.
ensure. So for the Business Academy support and the workforce training program,
Yes.
so what exactly is the workforce training program?
Basically, I've talked with, well, part of it is still IP to market. FIU and IP to market is still a program that I'm expecting Chris Ford to bring and operate here. But part of his other programs was to do other training in addition to the specific IP to market incubator. So he's doing things like CEO training, how to apply for federal grants. He's got a number of side programs that are not in the core of the IP to market program. I'm looking for those to still be here and to conduct those programs. I've also talked with Dan Marino Foundation. They have a number of training programs and we've initiated conversations. We haven't said anything in stone yet, but some of these programs can be brought in under the umbrella of our Dania Beach Business Academy, to where we're teaching workforce skills under that type of programming.
Okay, so they should probably be at the same thing if it's gonna go under one, because it'll go from
Yeah.
6,900 to 16,000, because both of them say training programs and
Yes.
things of that nature.
Yeah, basically, the difference between them is the level of the training. Some of these are more basic job skills. In fact, Dan Marino Foundation has a job skills program that's just training people how to improve their interview skills, how to develop business habits, business acceptable habits, so that if they get a job, they can keep a job. All right? This is not necessarily high level training. It's really just to help people that are having challenges getting good, steady jobs that will be enduring. All right, so there's some of that. Some of it is more, I guess, a little bit more sophisticated when we start talking about some of our business training programs, like
Do you have any
tools.
materials that you can like give so we can see these? Like,
Yes.
because these are all like visions, but it's nothing like a plan that we can follow. I think that's the struggle I'm having with this stuff. It's like there are placeholders. It's vague. It's maybe we can do this with, or maybe we can do that, but it's no defined plan on what exactly we're doing and who's doing it. You know.
Okay.
So I would like to see that. I would like to extend this non-residential improvement program and not just have it on Federal Highway. I think that we're missing some opportunities for some of the small businesses on Northwest First Ave right here.
If I may, we've already extended it. Now it's totally within the CRA boundaries, not just limited to Federal Highway.
Okay, I'll take that off of that. And then I see the motorcycle show, but we
Yes.
also are discussing that with the city. So are we funding the motorcycle show from from the city and the CRA? I'm confused. on
Since
that.
I've been with the CRA has donated $5,000 to support the motorcycle show. So I maintain that in
think
the
it is
budget,
both.
but if it's done through the city, then I'd simply take it off of my budget.
Yeah, because I know the city wants to assist next year a little more with the motorcycle show also.
Right, so
And
we're
the
already
CRA gives a
giving-
donation as well.
Okay, so
Yeah.
we'll be giving, okay. I didn't know that we were funding the motorcycle show from the CRA and the city, and then they're asking for an increase on top of that. All right, I'm not in favor of that, but if this consensus, that's fine. The land acquisition, I feel like we really aren't doing much with that. We've had the land acquisition at $500,000 for a number of years. I think this is the first year we've done anything remotely, is this the first year we've done anything with this money?
First year since I've been here, yes.
Okay, and so if we're not really going to utilize it and like really going out and seeking parcels or I can name a few that I call a city on all the time. I call Anna all the time. Like, can we buy this property because it's a problematic property? Like, you can get with BSO or the code department and see all these codes that are racked up on certain properties. I would like to try and purchase some of those properties with this if we're not going to really put an effort into utilizing this money. I don't know why we need to have that. And stimulus incentives, what is that? For 70,000.
That is basically, we talked about doing the vision plan and improving the public realm. But the piece of that is that you need to work with the property owners to attach and engage the private realm with the improved public realm. So that money was really to work with the property owners along West First Avenue so that we can help them plan and design their connections to the improved public realm.
Have we done anything with that?
No, because we don't have the public realm design yet.
Okay. And then the business attraction grant for 55,000, what is that?
Yes, I have talked a couple of times about adding a startup incentive to help attract businesses to the CRA. That was a placeholder for that. I've actually drafted a program. I just haven't brought it to you for discussion or approval. But basically, it's a way to build, the way I visualize it, it's a way to build on top of some of the training programs that we've initiated here. whether it's IP to Market or Dan Marino Foundation or FIU or SCORE and the Dania Beach Business Academy. We're making investments, and we have partners who are making investments to help companies start up and to help companies be successful. And what I would like to do would be to offer some incentive money so that those businesses that are being groomed by those training programs actually have an incentive to open those businesses here in Dania Beach instead of going someplace else with them. And I see that to be, I actually envision that to be perhaps something like maybe a $10,000 subsidy to assist with maybe the first year of rent for a startup company that actually rents space here to open.
So.
But I haven't brought the program with it to you just yet.
So in your draft, what would be the maximum amount of money that one business would get?
Well,
receive?
I think that $10,000 is a meaningful start to offset the first month rent for a new company coming to Dania Beach. I think that depending of your appetite for that, to increase that with a bonus of additional $5,000 perhaps to an existing business in Dania Beach that is actually expanding their space, or maybe a Dania Beach resident who is the owner of that business that qualifies.
So the $10,000 would be for new startup business, not existing businesses, correct?
That is correct. But we could also extend that definition to businesses that are here and physically expanding their business. They're growing.
Okay, I'm okay with that. Okay, and last but not least, why are we asking not to renew this lease that we fought so hard for? What happened?
Well, part of it is that the FIU has not brought the activity, the side activities with that yet. I'm still working with him to try to get that list of activities, but I haven't got them yet, and I find it hard to justify spending $60,000 for empty space.
What is your plan for your space if you don't find somewhere else?
Well, and excuse me, by the way, part of that was a plan that was established when, again, the CRA had more staffing. So the anticipation was for Bill and Keisha to move their offices there. Mm-hmm. But Bill's position, frankly, when we fill it, there's an office in Bill's office here on the second floor, and Keisha's position was eliminated. So we have eliminated some positions where there's no longer need for that remote office space as well.
So as the CRA expands, where would the staff go is my question.
Yes, I think that we can do some of the programming in maybe the Northwest Conference Room at City Hall. I think that I would expect the Dan Marino Foundation would be happy to work with us and maybe co-host some of the programs for us in their facilities. There's alternative space for this that can happen now that I'm better able to see that we don't need actual desk space in that location.
Okay, but I'm just putting on the record that I was concerned about that beforehand, and I'm still concerned about where, when you hire additional people, where they will go. I don't think that just sticking them in the Northwest Conference Room would be appropriate for them. So that's something that I think that you need to
I wasn't talking about putting employees in the Northwest Conference Room. I was talking about holding training events and so forth in the next Northwest Conference Room.
Okay.
I'm sorry if I was unclear about that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Board Member James. Yeah, thank you, Board, for doing your homework on that. I appreciate some of your comments on that, Board Member James. The only one thing I want to discuss is the $500,000 for the land acquisition. We did use it with that piece of property that you got in the auction, which is good. Made one contiguous 6 parcels of land. It's good to have that budgeted for just in case the opportunity ever does arise. Like some of those parcels of land, they may not be for sale, but they may become for sale, and it'd be a good opportunity. I just don't want to take it out of the budget to not have that opportunity. That's all. Yeah, no, I agree. Board Member James said she wants us to be more aggressive, and yeah, I would like to see that as well. We have it budgeted for, so maybe we could do it. It has to make sense to the board, but, you know, that's definitely our director to give us direction with parcels that you find, and then the board as well. You know, we all are very familiar with the CRA boundaries, and I'm sure we can do some of our own research on that and present it to the board. All right, so yeah, thank you. Very good comments from everybody. Great meeting all around. Anybody else? All right, meeting adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.
What's up?